So it was, 92 was actually it was really an amazing tour. Just
Pearl
because
Jam.
kind of luck of the draw, we knew almost every
Yeah.
person that performed.
Ministry,
Supposedly that was the
Chili
most
Peppers,
camaraderie.
Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Ice Cube, Jesus and Mary Chain, Lush. Forgetting somebody? I probably am.
You pretty much got it, right? So
Great
we
bill,
knew,
a lot of fun.
We knew pretty much everybody in Ministry
Jim Rose
because
Circus Sideshow.
Jim Rose Circus Sideshow, that's
Yeah,
right.
Jim Rose Circus Sideshow, a bunch of buddies in that. What he was telling you about Ministry, 3 of the guys are from Seattle.
Yeah, Al Jorgensen's band were all in a band called the Blackouts, which was a like almost pre-Seattle scene Seattle band
Yep.
that we were influenced
coolest
by.
Very
band.
influenced by them, yeah.
And of course, we knew everyone in Pearl Jam. We knew everyone in
We
the
met all the Chili Peppers guys.
Yeah. So it was just really fun. We could go kind of on anyone's stage while they were playing and do whatever we wanted. And we had that sort of open door policy. So we'd go up during Ministry. Guys would come out when we were playing. Nobody seemed uptight.
One time I was out in the crowd watching the Booyah Tribe and Ministry were playing. And they didn't recognize Chris. I remember that you were on
That's
stage,
right.
and I remember the guys tackled Chris.
I was
You
in
ever
the
seen
audience,
the Booyah Tribe?
and I jumped on stage.
They're like this tall, this big.
They're like
They
small
saw
guys.
Chris, and they were huge
They-
Samoan dudes, and they tackled Chris.
They tackled me, but they were,
And then they realized,
they
oh,
were
whoa.
somewhat gentle about it.
Yeah, they just were taking you down, and then they kind of squeezed you out like
I
toothpaste.
came out of the top like toothpaste out of a tube. Sort of, it was fun.
And that band Ministry on that tour was the loudest music I've ever heard.
Yeah.
By far the loudest thing I've ever heard.
It was also really, it was fairly diverse musically, which was partly the idea. But to us, it was like a tour as opposed to a European festival that stays in one place. And the difference was that I think the appeal essentially had like a demographic, like maybe the youngest is 12 and the oldest is 25, whereas a European festival was little kids to grandparents. And the music would be even more diverse. And we did the second year, and it seemed like there was a cultural shift in rock music, especially that Lollapalooza kind of was conveniently there to take advantage of. I don't think it was the other way around. I don't think it necessarily helped create that. I think it was there to take advantage of the idea that it was there.
Yep.
When Pearl Jam signed on to do Lollapalooza '92, they were a relatively unknown band. By the time the tour started, they were one of the most successful rock bands in the world.
It's like
So
watching the Beatles, the fans would just storm the whole place. Immediately they'd run in.
Because none of that music was considered mainstream back then. None of those.
No.
No, but a lot of those artists became mainstream or successful during that tour or afterwards.
a lot of it during that tour based on the records and the music that was out there getting played. I'm sure the tour helped too. Other than it has the same name, it wasn't like it had really anything to do with
But that was a lot of fun for different reasons.
That was
One is
so
that
delirious.
It was only the second show we'd played in since reuniting, and it happened to be in the town I grew up in, and so we had a lot of friends that had come to Chicago to see us.
Third show.
It was just that one big gig on a huge stage, and you could see Lake Michigan on our right, on the left you could see a part of the Chicago skyline, and it was pretty cool. It's definitely a different experience than the '92 Lollapalooza or the '96 Lollapalooza. It might have been more satisfying because of that. We kind of took our nerves up there and whipped it out, and that was it.
Well, they can expect to see Soundgarden, which is what's so great about it to me. I've played in different contexts down there and had conversations with everybody I talk to who all ask the same question, which is, when is Soundgarden coming to play Chile? And they ask it with that sort of like, fucking come on, come and play Chile. and like, I'm sympathetic to that. I think that we should play, Soundgarden should play everywhere that you can go play and get back home safely. So I think it's definitely long overdue.
Except 1980 South Africa.
Do you have any good memories of your performances in Chile?
Yeah, there's like some of the most memorable shows. There's one in particular that's like one of the most memorable live experiences I've had. A couple. There was one where it was just acoustic guitar and a really way too big audience to ever be watching a guy play an acoustic guitar. That was kind of scary, but it was fun, and I think that the audiences, they're very supportive, passionate, know the songs, and kind of maybe get into it in a different way. Countries like Chile or other parts of South America or Latin America, the music is it's more participatory in a way where they're used to playing music and dancing and being part of a performance and what's happening. And in the United States, a lot of that has sort of gone away over the years, where our audiences are used to being spectators and watching and expecting, and not necessarily being physically carried away by it. And so it's always refreshing, and it gives you walk away with a different feeling.
America's pretty isolated with their earbuds and iPods and laptops. Music's in the background at bars, and that's about it.
For the past number of years, Santiago is like this undiscovered jewel, or like one of the best kept secrets. If not the country, certainly the hemisphere. I've heard people say that. It's a beautiful city geographically. The people are friendly and civilized, and so from top to bottom, it's a wonderful place to be, and a wonderful place, visually and socially.
Well, it's interesting, new generations of fans, it's hard to tell what it means. My reference is my memory of being like, a 12-year-old collecting records and trying to kind of uncover cool rock music that isn't necessarily in front of my face. And nowadays, rock radio, for example, is in the minority of all radio, and it's not the same world. The rock is very small compared to everything else. So I think that it's almost a bigger challenge, and yet there's probably also a bigger reward in it too, because they're uncovering things. And it makes me happy in a sense that we can be one of those discoveries. And I think we really are one of those discoveries, because we've had a lot of success and we've sold a lot of records, but we also had more than a decade where we weren't touring or making albums. And also, as big as our success was compared to some of the overwhelming success of other rock bands, it's not quite the same. We've always been extremely diverse. You could never decide what we sounded like based on one song or two songs or even 5 songs. And so I think we have this huge body of work for young rock fans to discover. And I see it happening as we play shows. You see a lot of young fans kind of right up front and looking at us with different eyes than I've seen other fans look before, because we're not something that's breaking out now. We're not something that's sort of happening in the moment. We're a band that they've heard about since they were maybe little kids, and now finally they're seeing it for the first time. And there's sort of a different wonder to it, and they're more exuberant and less jaded about anything. They're not trying to judge. They've decided that we are who we are, and now they're just watching it for the first time. And I think that's been like one of the more rewarding experiences about us being together again and performing. It feels good. It feels like all of the work that we put into making all the albums and that we've made and writing all the songs is still bearing fruit in these young fans. We're going to play songs from our history as much as we can cram into the time that we have, and we're going to try to play them really well and have fun doing it. We're just who we are, who we've always been. So that's what we do. And we'll be playing music from the first things we ever did to all the way up to King Animal. And we're taking our makeup off this time, guys. It's going to be a big deal.
We're freeing up our drummer from the cage. The cage that rotates and spins around.
And you know, we used to talk about creating holograms and then send those holograms on tour. And we could sort of have to be joking about it when we talked about it, and it's now.
The reality.
There's a Japanese artist that's a cartoon character that they've
rappers
created
are doing
a hologram for, and this
Tours.
fake thing
Yeah.
tours and plays in front of like crowds of 10,000. I pay to see
So
a
there's
hologram.
still hope that we can do that.
Yeah.
the killing.
Well, it's our idea. I think we should sue for some sort of a percentage or.
There was something like that actually that was done in the early mid '80s. Devo did it. They called it 3Devo, and it was 3D, but it was as holographic as you can get back then. You had to wear special glasses, and they projected this film, and they played, and then simultaneously broadcasted or via satellite or something to various locations. And one of them was the university, that radio station KXP that you were mentioning earlier, was KCMU then, and they got the deal. They just rented out a room and sold tickets, and you'd see Devo in this sort of 3D effect performing. And when we eventually established that preferable fantasy for ourselves and our ability to tour, we should have looked into that technology.
Well, I have like a long list that's in my phone,
He spins a dreidel over the list.
and
Sees where it lands.
I sent that list to Matt, who often writes our set lists, and sometimes I think he refers to it, and a lot of time I think he doesn't refer to it because he'll leave out like a whole bunch of songs that we should be playing. But it's more kind of whatever the middle of the day is before we're playing the show. Kind of the set list gets created, and we all kind of look at it and make decisions, and it's kind of stream of consciousness, like what would be fun today, and oh, that'd be great, and sometimes that's why we don't play a song like Black Hole Sun or something, because it just sort of gets forgotten. And it's like some sort of a marriage between, we want the fans to be happy, but part of that is also that we're excited to go play, so we're always going to include certain songs based on the idea that we want to do them, while still trying to consider what fans want to hear. And in playing South America, I think that's going to be that's going to be difficult. I mean, we're going to have to consider it a little bit differently because we've never played there before, and we have a lot of records. So what it means is we'll have to come back again. So.
And it's not the kind of thing, like on
To
an
play the
American
endings of
tour,
songs.
I would go
Yeah.
out to the barricade sometimes and ask fans what they wanted to hear. Like, me and Matt are going to sit down and write out the set list right now. What would you guys want to hear tonight? I would go back and tell Matt, well, this song, or whatever. Matt would, shh. I
That's
don't think the
pretty much what we've been doing the
Lollapalooza
past
gig is going to be
4 years.
conducive to that.
Matt writes out the backbone and the spine of the set list, and we three of us throw our 2 cents in, or point out if there's a problem, like, oh, I don't think I can play that song today. My hands are missing, and then he'll take it off the list.